check out ESPN Film's newly released 30 for 30 podcasts. From the producers of our award-winning documentary series, this is an amazing collection of sports stories you need to hear to believe. Speaking of amazing, Delta Airlines and the Fly Delta app make your travel experience amazingly easy with real-time bag tracking, e-boarding, and passport scanning during check-in. And don't forget to download 30 for 30 podcasts to fill your flight with stories that will keep you coming back for more.
And now, Jalen and Jacoby on ESPN Radio.
When I pop the trunk, head to death. Y'all pop the trunk, I pop the hood.
Now act stupid, I'll pop the trunk. Give me your
He is Jalen Rose.
What up, Doe?
I'm David Jacoby.
And on the cool check-in, center stage on the mic.
And we putting it on wax.
What do we do?
Give the people what they want.
Just because we have sold all the way out and we're on television in the afternoon doesn't mean we will not give our podcast listeners that supported us from day one a dope pod to step two.
Hit the brakes real quick. Hold on. This is for the pod. Hold on. Podcast listeners, if you could see David Jacoby right now talking about selling out, this gentleman has multiple blazers.
What?
This isn't the one that he wore at the ESPYs. He's clean. White button up all the way up to the neck. Great tie. The knot is fly.
Look.
Teeth are whitened. Makeup is crisp. This guy's ready for Sports Center. He's talking about me never dressing up for the show. What do you guys think about that? Please make sure you blow up his Twitter handle.
First of all, you never show up for the show. Okay, I'm not worried about you dressing up for the show. I'm worried about you showing up for the show. We're not going to call it a show anymore. We're not going to call it a show anymore. And second of all, this is an audio medium. You didn't have to tell them that. We had a conference call about the show. It's about we actually prepare for the show. Sorry, everybody. We prepare for the show. We had a conference call. I said on it, Jalen, I'm going to do Sports Center later. I'm dressed up today. Just don't mention it on the show. So far, you have now mentioned it 3 times. This is when you know you're close friends. When I say don't do something, you're like, oh, you put on your to-do list. Got to do it. Got to do it.
There are people that listen to this program that remember when you were Jacoby _ that sent petitions, that sent strongly worded emails to twitter.com. Now look at you.
Oh, Jalen Rose. Sell out?
Even talking about getting 6 nannies now. Man, this guy.
I'll get 10 nannies if I could. Nannies on nannies on nannies. Gotta be careful who you let in the house, though, man. Gotta be careful who you let in the house. Ask Ben Affleck. So, Jalen Rose. John Jones has a big fight with Daniel Cormier coming up, right? And he said this, and I kind of love this about the UFC. Quote, unless he has something real pressing to talk to me about, I'd rather just talk to Ari Emanuel. As of now, I look at Ari as my boss and Dana as more of a face and the voice of UFC. Huh. Does John Jones have a point that Ari Emanuel, if you don't know, his company, WME, IMG, bought for $4 billion the UFC? And I know that Dana White still has a stake in the product, but a very small stake. Is Dana White just sort of the figurehead for the UFC and Ari Emanuel is the true string puller behind the scenes?
I would give Dana White more credit because he's the brains behind the entire operation.
That's fair.
That put it in a position to actually be sold for the amount of money that it was sold for. And he's also the guy that clearly continues to orchestrate and give people the fights that they want. So much so that he's about to get a big check for Conor McGregor getting tattooed by Floyd Mayweather. And people are going to pay $40 to watch this in movie theaters?
What?
No doubt about it. So, what John Jones is doing, however, he's creating a pecking order. Like, you know what? You over there focused on Conor. So I'm going to deal with me right now. I'm going to worry about what's happening with my situation because probably when I hit you on the text or when I call you, I ain't getting a direct hit back. So I'm going to have to talk to the top guy because I know he want to make sure we get this bread on my fight coming up.
So here's one thing that concerns me about this big fight. is this is going to be one of the biggest purses in the history of the sport. Like, that's a fact. It's just going to be. It's a foregone conclusion that this is going to be one of the biggest purses in the history of the sport. One of my concerns is when you make this much money for a one-off thing, isn't there a part of them that's like, hey, can we make this a trilogy? Can we make this? Can we stretch this out? Can we make this fight competitive enough that people want to see it again? Could you see something like that tainting the competitiveness of this fight?
All I know is this.
What's that, Mr. Rose?
Floyd Mayweather should be the official mass producer of the Harriet Tubman 20s after this fight.
Everything comes back to the Harriet Tubman 20s for you.
Because I can't believe, with all due respect, that level of interest and the financial benefit that's going to come from a fight that when it ends, everybody's going to be mad.
Everybody's going to be mad.
I'm telling you right now.
They need to have a plan for that. Like, they should have Beyonce come out and do a concert right after because everybody loves Beyonce. Like, right after the fight's over, like, oh, ladies and gentlemen, here's Beyonce. Like, you have to give the people what they want. And you don't want people to feel ripped off because this fight will not be much of a fight. If I was, as a producer, as a television producer, that's what I would do. I would be like, you know what? We need a dessert after this meal. Like, this meal is not going to leave everybody satisfied. So let's have Jay-Z and Beyonce come out. We could pay them each $10 million. Let's have them do a 3-song medley after the fight's over. Have Jay write a special verse about Floyd, and then everyone will go home happy because they are not going to go home happy if they're expecting a competitive fight.
I've been to a gang of fights, and some of the most upset I've seen fans was the time that Tyson bit Holyfield's ear.
Mm-hmm. Yep. What was the scene like on the casino floor after that?
Oh, it was chaos.
Well, no, take me through it. Give me details. Give me story time with Jalen Rose. What was that like?
It was people throwing bottles. It was people pushing and shoving. People were truly upset. And this is what I say about the current landscape of sports. The person that you're sitting next to, the person that you're talking to, the person on social media that you think just rooting for a team, you don't realize that all sporting events have something in common, a betting line. And so a lot of times they have a bigger vested interest in the actual final score of the game. So with that fight, so many people lost on both sides. And what do? You try to tear up the casino. That's really what everybody was doing. Trying to
tear up the casino.
Tables,
yeah, people were taking chips
off tables, all types of stuff.
Now
so
listen.
that was the scene. And again, Floyd is going to dust Conor McGregor. Like, he truly is. Like, this may be his chance to get a signature knockout. I'm talking about, like, Tyson and Burbank, where he stood up, he fell back down, stood into the ropes again. But even if that does not take place, over his almost 20-year illustrious career, do you know how long average per ring? Do you know the length of time average for a Floyd Mayweather fight as it relates to rounds?
How many rounds average? Oh, I'm going to guess like 8.
10.9.
Wow. And the 12-round fights? Yeah, that makes sense. He goes deep into fights.
Yep. So
he doesn't try until the 4th round.
When you go against a guy that fights MMA that's never gone over 4 rounds and has many professional fights as me, just think what's going to happen between rounds 4 and 11. Either Conor's got to stick his nose in there, or Floyd is going to literally dance and make him look foolish. So because of that, people are going to be upset, and they need to follow your theory. Bring out Beyonce when it's over.
Bring out Beyonce when it's over. Y'all need to have a plan for this. Have a plan for this. If you brought out Beyonce after the Tyson-Holyfield fight, the casino floor wouldn't have got torn up. People would have been happy. That's all you got to do. I mean, back then it probably had to be Madonna or whatever, but you get the point. When you were there, and the casino floor was getting teared up after the Holyfield-Tyson fight, and it was just chaos on the casino floor, just what percentage of you 0 to 100 was like, let me grab some chips?
Well, I saw some notable individuals that I won't name doing that.
Oh, no, name them. Name them. Name them. Name them. Name them. Name them.
I can't do it because of the statute of limitations and the jobs they currently carry.
I know you love statues. You love the statute of limitations more than any other statue.
I do.
It's actually statute.
And because of that, a lot of times you see people get hemmed up and grappled. You know that really hard when the cops grab you and they pull one of your arms to the shoulder, back to the other shoulder.
I actually don't know that.
They put your head all the way down.
I do not know that.
I saw a lot of that being done.
Okay. So I guess you didn't. We'll always give exclusive content to our podcast listeners. One little story that didn't make the television show I want to talk to you about. The Bucks are actively trying to trade John Henson and Greg Monroe, which is odd because they both play the same position. And if you trade both of them, that kind of leaves you with like the Greek freak playing center. Is this just another example of the centerless East, you know what I mean, of the positionless basketball, everybody trying to get smaller? Or is this them trying to clear cap space so they can sign Tony Snell? What do you see about this move?
This is another example of what has been discussed on this very fine program that the Milwaukee Bucks want to embody. Team futuristic.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Multiple players, positionless basketball. Look at who they drafted. DJ Williams out of University of Michigan.
Yep.
He's going to fall in line.
He can
Thon
shoot.
Maker.
Yep. I love Thon Maker.
Giannis Antetokounmpo. They want to have multiple players that can actually, and I know this sounds to old school basketball fans and players, I know this sounds easy, but I say this to dumb it down. They actually want players that can dribble, pass, and shoot.
Think about some of your favorite players. They can't do all three of those things.
Correct. Look at your team when you get a chance and your team's roster. And just go down the roster and be like, okay, he can dribble.
Close your eyes and imagine some of your favorite players running the break in transition. just think about that for a second. Sometimes you can't even, like with DeAndre Jordan, like you can't even visualize it. Like I've never seen it. I don't even know if he can dribble, to be honest with you. Well, we say
he was showing his chest at the ESPYs.
I know, he's in shape. We say we give the people what they want. Let's manifest it. Let's go to our voicemails. Remember, if you call 98580, you can leave us voicemails. Our team goes through the voicemails and picks their favorites like this.
Yo, what up, Jalen Jacoby? This is Colin from the A. Hey, since the East so weak, you think my boy D'Angelo Russell got a chance to maybe make the All-Star team next year? Y'all let me know.
Does D'Angelo Russell have a chance to make the All-Star team?
He has a chance to be a 20-point scorer.
Mm-hmm. He'll be getting some buckets. Someone's got to.
And at that point, it's going to depend on the Nets' record, which I've applauded Sean Marks, my former teammate, nicknamed Kiwi, for the moves that he's done in this offseason to try to put them in position of some sort of relevance, adding Mozgov in that deal, adding Allen Crabbe also. But when you look at the landscape of the Eastern Conference backcourt players, it doesn't have to be far-fetched. Wall, Isaiah Thomas, Kyrie, Lowry, and DeRozan.
I'm sure you forget one. We always forget one. Don't tweet us. We always forget some people.
And this year, there were other players in the mix. Will it be a Bradley Beal, depending on how well his team performs?
Next voicemail. Play it, Reg.
What's going on, guys? This is Blake. And since you guys have officially sold out, but you also have a new segment, is there any way that we could replace ball back carrying Jalen in the logo with do-rag Jalen, since he is now making frequent appearances? Thanks, guys. Give the people what they want.
Blake, really appreciate the call.
Shout out.
Do-rag Jalen was a very controversial segment. It was something that we tried as an experiment. The experiment, what was it? The operation was a success, but the patient died. The ghost of do-rag Jalen still haunts the studio. Every once in a while when I'm here alone late at night, a do-rag will just appear out of nowhere and float through the room. And by the time I can get my camera out to film it, it's gone. I do not think that we will be replacing the bat and the logo with do-rag Jalen. I like the bat and the logo, Jalen. I like the bat and the logo because it reminds me of back in the day before we sold out. You know, when you used to carry a bat, you used to show up at whatever time you wanted to show up. We used to do the show whenever we wanted to do the show. It was only once a week, so we had fire topics. And you were also like 370 pounds at that time, too. If the people wanted sound of Dan Gilbert and Kobe Altman sitting at the front of a press conference acting like everything's cool, that's exactly what they got. Let's listen to Dan Gilbert.
Right now, Kyrie Irving's on a contract with the Cleveland Cavaliers for 2 or 3 years, depending on the last year. So as of now, he's one of our best players, and sure, we expect him to be in camp.
Why are the Cavs acting like everything is so chill in Cleveland? They're just headed into camp all together as one big happy family.
In professional sports, ink to paper is all that matters. Mm-hmm. And he said it. Kyrie Irving is under contract for the next 2 seasons. There's no reason for me to worry. There's no reason for me to panic. I anticipate one of our best players is going to be on our roster. I anticipate unless somebody gives me a knockout deal, he's going to be in camp. As long as LeBron James says he's not waiving his no-trade clause, I anticipate he, Kevin Love, and LeBron to be leading my squad to the NBA Finals next year. What should I be worried about?
You know what? And they've been criticized, and I literally just criticized them about 45 seconds ago, but like, I would do the exact same thing if I was in their shoes. This is what the Knicks did wrong with Carmelo. They're like, we want to trade Carmelo. Carmelo wants to go. That just brings his value down. If you go up there and you say, you know what? We love Kyrie Irving. We've been to the finals 3 straight times. He's going to be there in training camp. Then you don't seem so thirsty to ship him out, even though we all know that with the second that press conference is over, Kobe Altman's on the phone trying to trade Kyrie Irving. But that's besides the point. You are right. All that matters is the contracts. It's like I always say to you, it's not a problem until it's a problem. He's a Cleveland Cavalier until he gets traded to another team, and that's why they expect him to be in training camp. Do you expect him to be in training camp, though?
Until they get a knockout offer, I do, because there aren't many all-star level players that are available to be moved. The ones that don't have long-term contracts with their current teams are going to be in play. They will be discussed, but at this point, the Cavs own the leverage. And what people take for granted, it is hard to win in professional sports. Okay? The Cleveland Cavaliers have won a championship and been to the finals the last 3 seasons. You're not going to just tinker with it at this point of the season because a player's currently unhappy. You allow the situation to play itself out, and that's what I think they're going to do.
And I think that we as media members are constantly speculating, okay, you can move him for the Timberwolves and get Wiggins back, or maybe Eric Bledsoe and the Suns and the Knicks and get Carmelo. But honestly, what I would do if I were the Cleveland Cavaliers is not trade Kyrie Irving. I would just keep him on the team and say, LeBron James, you're a professional. Kyrie Irving, you're a professional. You guys work it out. Every single person watching this show or listening to this podcast works with someone that they would rather not work with. It's no different on a basketball team.
It isn't any different. And also, again, they've had so much success together. People tend to dismiss all of the journey and only look at the final result. It means something to win a division. It means something to win the East. It means something to make it to the NBA Finals and be in a position to play on the largest stage in professional basketball. Not many teams are going to be in that spot. So therefore, for Cleveland, a city that hadn't won a professional championship in over 50 years? You think now all of a sudden we just going to throw all of that away? Because the media or a couple of fans feel like, oh, he wants to be gone. So we're going to trade him to your squad so you can now root for him? Not going to be able to do it.
Another thing that I love that Dan Gilbert did was manage the message in regards to potential Paul George trade. Let's listen.
How would you, if you could go back and give us like a summation of what happened with the talks with Indiana for Paul George and what fell through there?
I will say that Indiana could have done better than they did.
I love this. I love this so much. This is a Danny Ainge move. This is a Danny Ainge move. It's just like, I'm going to tell my fans and I'm going to tell my players that I gave a better offer to the Pacers for Paul George. It's managing the message. It's what you're saying is, because there's a lot of Cleveland fans being like, wait a second, Paul George got traded to the Thunder for what? And there was an offer on the table from the Cavs and you messed that up. He's basically saying, I didn't mess that up. The Pacers messed that up. How did you read that?
I'm glad you went there, because don't make me jump in an Uber and go around to the Quicken Loans offices right now. I had to sit down to Mr. Dan Gilbert to talk about this. A proud sponsor of the Jalen Rose Leadership Academy. The fact is, this is being reported like Paul George was going to be traded to the Cleveland Cavaliers for Kyrie Irving. Mm-hmm. The thing that's getting lost is the goal was to have a roster with LeBron James, Paul George, and Kyrie Irving. Kevin Love was the all-star player that was going to be moved to the Denver Nuggets. So when he says he felt like they should have got a better offer, that doesn't mean they would have gotten Kyrie. I think people have gotten that part of the deal misconstrued.
That's a really good point. And the Pacers asked for Irving for Paul George, but they didn't get it. Instead, they had a 3-team deal with shipping out Kevin Love. And it would have been a really interesting team, but guess what? Now the Cleveland Cavaliers are in complete shambles, and I enjoy every single second of it.
They're not in shambles. We just got finished talking about that. What do you mean? They got LeBron James, Kyrie Irving, and Kevin Love.
Perception is reality, Jalen Rose. We've talked about this many times. Perception is reality. They're going back to the finals. Here's what I'm doing. Media. I said this immediately when it happened. All you need to do is set up a dinner between Kyrie Irving and LeBron James. Have them work it out. Next thing you know, you're going right back to the NBA Finals. You just cross your fingers and hope that one of the Warriors gets injured. Moving on, though, what's LeBron James doing with his offseason besides listening to Meek Mill? He is working out in Las Vegas. And he's working out in Las Vegas with Eric Bledsoe. That definitely means that they're trading Kyrie Irving to the Suns for Eric Bledsoe, right?
For those that follow this program, August, September 2014, it was discussed that when LeBron James is working out with his little brother, Eric Bledsoe, that may be a sign that there's a little frost between he and Kyrie Irving. And while Kyrie Irving has become a better overall player, he may actually prefer being on the squad with Bledsoe. For those that follow this program, you saw that conversation happen. So don't look at the bottom of the ticker. This is not breaking news. Don't be alarmed when you see them working out in Vegas together. They under the same representation, Clutch Sports. It's not breaking news when Derrick Rose gets invited. They're teammates.
Exactly.
Inviting everybody to, Vegas to come work out. Of course they're invited.
And another thing is remember when he worked out with Ben Simmons, everyone's like, he's going to go to the Sixers. Like, just because LeBron James takes a couple jump shots with somebody does not mean he's definitely going to be teammates with that person. He has been working out with Eric Bledsoe for years. It's just because of the funky timing of the Kyrie Irving news that we are sort of taking this and then running with it for a mile. But the fact of the matter is, dude's just working out with somebody who's in his agent family. That's all it is. And he's done it in the past.
Somebody, again, that he clearly would like to play with and is going to be in conversation as Kyrie Irving's scenario gets played out. So don't be surprised when 2, 3, 4 team scenarios get thrown around that isn't a potential.
Now, Jalen, I'm a hardworking, focused professional, but here's the thing. If I really wanted to get work done, I wouldn't go to Vegas. You know, it just seems like a weird place to be working out. It's like, we're going to really get ready for this season, man. We got to turn it up. We got to really get ready. Let's go to Vegas. Meet me at Vegas, and then we'll really focus on this work. Like, to me, that's not how it works. That's not how it works for me.
For everybody, look up the plane that just flew over your head. I'm going to tell you why you work out in Vegas. Because what happens there stays there. And therefore, whether I'm in my home that I rent or own, whether I'm in my luxurious suite that has multiple floors in a casino hotel, I get to do what I want, say what I want, and my business is not on blast. Yet I can go to the gym, get a sweat in for a couple hours a day, and still enjoy the rest of it.
I would be enjoying the rest of the day way too much to be effective working out the next day. But that's just me. I'm not in the NBA. I'm not LeBron James. Jalen Rose. Julio Jones was just jet skiing on a lake in Georgia, and he lost an earring. Not just an earring, $100,000 earring. And then he hired a diving team to recover said earring in a lake that is 65 feet deep. I have so many questions about this, but my very first question is, do people really wear earrings that are $100,000?
Absolutely. You know, I'm a product of the bling bling era. So chains hanging down, banging glass tables, 2 bracelets, 2 watches, the stud earrings, no doubt about it. But a couple of things stand out to me in this story.
Okay.
When you get on the jet skis, as I love to do, you got to run the jewels.
Yes, you do.
The watch,
you do.
The chain,
everything, the phone, the wallet, everything. You're on the jet ski.
No question. That's one. 2, when you lose it, Don't waste money and everybody else's time hiring a dive team to go look for it.
Is it a soft move or a boss move hiring the dive team?
That's a soft move. Here's why. Number one, now it becomes something for public consumption, and you have people like yourself who look really handsome with your shirt and tie and your blazer on today.
Thank you, sir.
Asking about it versus just going to file your insurance claim. You're going to get it replaced anyway.
See, you know what? That was one thing I thought. I was like, maybe it's a $20,000 earring, and he just said a $100,000 earring because he knows it's on the bottom of a lake, and he really doesn't want these divers to recover it. But also, how much is the dive team?
Works.
I know exactly how that works. I know exactly how that works.
When you buy something for the jeweler, first off, they always act like they're hooking you up.
Of course. Yeah, every jeweler's never made money selling anything. In the history of jewelry stores, they've never made a dime. I'm just doing this for you because it's a favor. Because it's you, I'm not making any money on this at all. I'm just going to do you a favor. Please. Jewelers.
So if the margin we're going to go by is $150K, here's how it works when you walk into the jeweler. It's really tagged for $150, but he act like he's going to look out for you and give it to you for $100.
And he says he bought it for $100.
And then give you the appraisal for $150.
Exactly.
When it's really worth $50.
We all know the hustle. Moving on. Lucky Whitehead has been claimed by the Jets. So here's my question. Which is worse? Being charged for a crime you didn't commit, being cut by the Cowboys, or being claimed by the Jets?
No question. Being charged for a crime you didn't commit. Because people assassinating my character, and I have to answer questions about something I didn't do, and then there's another fool out here that know my social security number.
And my address. Like, he's either his best friend or his biggest stan. I can't tell. But, like, come on now. On the Freakonomics podcast, a podiatrist who works with the Washington Wizards was asked if NBA players get pedicures, and he said yes. And then the follow-up question was, what percentage of NBA players get pedicures? The answer, 90% of NBA players regularly get pedicures. Did you get pedicures when you played in the league?
When I played in the league, I did not get pedicures. But again, we weren't as sophisticated as today's athlete. No different. All good craftsmen take care of their tools. So if you're going to be running up and down the basketball court for a living, you probably should take care of your feet and give them care. Just like other people do when they're getting manis and pedis very often.
Have you gotten a pedicure?
I have gotten a pedicure. You do these type of things once you get into a relationship.
See, I've never had a pedicure, but not because I'm a tough guy, because I just never did it. Like, it looks great. You get a little foot massage in there, soak your feet a little bit. That sounds like an excellent way to spend a half an hour. I'm definitely going to get a pedicure in the next week and a half. You know, the Curry family is doing their little Asia tour in the offseason. And, you know, it's a lot of media spots, and you go and you hit different cities. They're in Seoul, Korea. And here is a clip of Aisha Curry throwing an alley-oop to Steph Curry. The Curry family just always looks like they're having so much fun. I just want to hang out with the Currys. Please invite me over for dinner just once. I will pretend that the food is good. Here's my question, though. We know that the Currys are the first couple of the NBA, but are the Currys challenging the Carters as the first couple of the culture? A lot of C's.
First and foremost, they're the current first family of the NBA. The first family is LeBron James and Savannah.
Oh.
They were putting it down first.
Okay.
Now, however, with championship glory comes the fruits of labor. So therefore, the thing I appreciate about the Currys, and again, a dad that played in the league. And I always say, Steph is a son of a gun, literally, because Dale could thump that thing. When you're watching games, I'll never forget, at Houston, Steph takes a crazy tumble, falls on his head, falls on his neck. Everybody else feels like he may be concussed, maybe he got whiplash, and the building was silent. I look over at his mom, she stood up. Get up, Steph! We need this! I was like...
That's not how my mom would react.
Okay.
Victoria Dowling is not doing that. Victoria Dowling is going to be very concerned if I landed on my head.
Mine would. I was laying on the court in convulsions, and everybody's like, get up! Get up!
You got to hit these free throws. Hit these free throws.
This is a big game. We need you on the free throw line. He has a brother in the league who now has shown that he has staying power.
Seth had a good
with
year.
The Dallas Mavs.
Great second half of the year for Seth.
And here's the other thing. He now officially has on wax his wifey with him when he was shooting in the gym. That's drop the mic status.
Exactly.
She has a theme song. Aisha, give her a television show, a cooking show.
She's got more television shows than you do, Jalen.
No question. I saw his daughter on the show with a big gingerbread house, looked like something at the White House. You know what I mean? Sasha and Malia got jealous.
Big shout to Aisha.
No question.
Here's the thing. To us novices, us civilians, throwing an alley-oop is harder than it looks. It's harder than it looks, especially if you're throwing it to DeAndre Jordan, no problem. But throwing an alley-oop to Steph, it's got to be timed perfectly. Great pass, Aisha. Moving on. The great, the legendary, the founding father of this show, the podfather, Bill Simmons, was at the National Sports Nerds Convention. Oh, wait, my bad. The National Sports Collectors Convention. I've been there with him before. It's a huge convention center. It's full of baseball cards and collectibles and jerseys and posters. He found this gem of you, a young Jalen Rose, crouch over in the crossover position, and you see the light. The light is a trash pair of Converse basketball sneakers. I have a lot of questions about this, but my first question is, before Bill texted this to us, did you even know that this ad existed?
I did not. And the first thing that came to mind that says, keep getting them checks.
You're the best. You don't remember
in college, it was like, I'm rocking Nike. Then in the league, it's like, okay, I'm rocking Reebok. Then I'm rocking Adidas. And before you know it, I'm rocking Converse. That's what happens when you play for 16s. You got to get in where you fit in.
You don't remember the photo shoot. You don't remember the checks. You don't remember signing a Converse contract. You don't remember wearing those ugly shoes. You don't remember any of this?
Here's what I do remember. It was actually something that was cutting edge almost before its time.
Oh, God.
But it wasn't really something that had staying power. On the interior, it was actually a sock that stuck really tight to your shoe, to your foot. And then the shoe was actually just like a shell that you tied up. So you couldn't necessarily run in it or cut in it. I couldn't ball in them.
You didn't wear them in games?
Absolutely not.
That's interesting. I think there's a lot of players that have the inside of their shoes completely rebuilt. Actually, the same podiatrist who talked about the pedicure said this, that the inside of a lot of shoes are completely rebuilt specifically for that player. Do you find that to be the case in the NBA right now?
I do, and it's a smart thing. Like we talked about earlier, you're going to be running up and down the basketball court. You have to protect your extremities, your ankles, your feet, your knees, your hips, your legs. So you have to have what you feel like is the best thing for your shoes. I used to wear orthotics a lot because before I started rocking them, I used to run, even though I didn't run really fast or jump really high. When I stopped, I would always stub my big toe, and it really hurt, obviously. So at some point, I got orthotics, and to this day, I can't play basketball without them.
Last night, the United States, with a late goal, broke the tie against Jamaica to win the Gold Cup. It's not the World Cup, let's be honest, but I'll take a Gold Cup anytime. It was a great performance by the U.S. men's national team. You said earlier this week that you were going to watch the game. Did you watch the game?
I watched Belly. Me and Lennox was watching it. Jamaica's good. Jamaica's very good, except when they're playing against Team USA.
Jalen Rose, Adrian Beltre was in the on-deck circle. Wait, no, he was near the on-deck circle when the umpire asked him to go to the on-deck circle. What did Adrian Beltre do, Jalen?
He was not happy about it at all.
He moved the on-deck circle to where he was standing originally. Brilliant maneuver by Beltre there. My question for you is this. He was then ejected by the umpire. But if you were the umpire, how would you have handled it?
I would have thought it was funny. I would have had a sense of humor about it.
What's my rule, Jalen?
You can be mean if you're funny.
That's funny enough that I would have let it slide.
Major League Baseball, newsflash. The only reason why we're talking about you today is because of what Adrian Beltre did. We're not even going to talk about what happened in the game. So therefore, to answer your question, the umpire should have had a sense of humor about it.
Yes.
Allow us to enjoy the game a little more. Show some personality. Allow the players to have some fun. It's more than just hitting home runs and clearing a dugout when somebody throws a beanball for an unwritten rule.
Someone who shows a lot of personality and has a lot of fun is the Packers' Martellus Bennett. He was on social media showing everybody in the world that he was sleeping on the floor right next to his locker because he was so excited for training camp. Jalen Rose, if social media didn't exist, would he still be doing this?
He would not have been able to do this. And this is what you call a perfect example of using social media to control your message. Because that's the headline.
Yep.
NFL champion football player, one of the top tight ends in the game.
So excited.
Is so dedicated to play with Aaron Rodgers
for training camp.
and be a part of the Packers franchise that he was in Lambeau sleeping next to his locker.
He just couldn't wait for training camp.
The story is he was 15 minutes late and he got locked out.
He got locked out of the dorms. That's what really happened. He got locked out of the dorms. And you know, he drove past like 7 Motel 6s before he went to go sleep next to his locker to change the narrative. Again, if he didn't do that, the headline would be Martellus Bennett late for training camp. But now it's Martellus Bennett so dedicated to the Packers that he sleeps next to his locker. Good for him. I love the Bennett brothers.
Seriously, I was just
love
about
them
to
so
say
much.
that.
You know what? It's going to be so sad when they cancel our show and replace us with the Bennett brothers. But we still got like 5 more years until that happens. And you know what? I'll take it. I'll take it. Their show will probably be better anyway. And I don't mean that. Next, Joe Budden claimed on his podcast, shout to Joe Budden, by the way, claimed on his podcast that James Harden's jersey is hanging in the rafters. No, not in an NBA arena. In a Houston strip club, because he spent so much money in this strip club that they put his jersey up in the rafters. Jalen Rose, is this the only chance that you have of getting your jersey retired?
I like to pull the audience behind the curtain every chance I get.
Not in a strip club. Don't pull us behind the curtain in a strip club.
I hate to admit this. There have been times in my life, in my career, where I've sat in adult entertainment establishments and said, this is the best chance I had to get my number retired. So you know what? I might as well go for it.
Might as well. How many establishments around the country do you think you could be considered?
3.
I've never seen you think so hard about a question I've asked you in the 6 years we've been doing this program. Well, I'm not going to ask any follow-ups on that. We'll just let people imagine, because the next story is my favorite story, not just of the day, of the history of the human species. In Maine, cops were told about some strange behavior, and they sought out and found an extremely intoxicated man wearing a black hoodie and a clown mask with a foot-long machete duct taped to his amputated arm. Jalen Rose, if you were walking down the street and you saw a gentleman in a clown mask, super drunk, with a machete for an arm walking towards you, what would you do?
Hell!
I think that's the only appropriate response. My question is, how did he duct tape the machete to his amputated arm? That seems like a 2-person job, and he was extremely intoxicated. You know that was very difficult. He might have an accomplice out there somewhere in Maine. If I were the police, I would ask that question. I'd say, there might be an accomplice to this crime.
I would like to know who his accomplice was.
Who knows? Finally, we have this, and this one's very close to my heart. According to the Daily Mail, a overseas newspaper that my wife reads religiously, Beyonce and Jay-Z hired 6 nannies to take care of their twins. They're due 8-hour shifts, 1 nanny per baby, 3 8-hour shifts. Is 6 nannies too many nannies, Jalen Rose?
Not at all. You got to keep fresh bodies rotating.
Thank you very much.
Here's the thing. Joey Jacoby, I love you so much.
I love you too, Joey.
Because you reading this publication consistently purposely made sure that David saw this story so that now, as he's wearing his shirt and tie, and we went from being on at 2 in the morning to 2 in the afternoon, he can figure out a way to get more nannies around the crib.
We need more nannies. There's no such thing as too many nannies. I want the nannies to have nannies. I want to have a full corporate structure of nannies where there's a head nanny at top and then it goes down. I want to have a nanny schedule and then I want to punch the clock with the nannies. You can never have too many nannies. There's no such thing. Which brings us to this, Mr. Rose. A gentleman on the internet was walking outside of the Standard Hotel where they host the nightclub, the Boom Boom Room. I believe it's still called the Boom Boom Room. And he saw on the wall the address of the nightclub. Now, let's all remind everybody that the Boom Boom Room is on the roof of the Standard Hotel on the west side of New York City. And it was in that elevator going down from the roof that what happened, Mr. Rose?
There was an altercation between Solange Knowles and Sean Carter.
There was. Sean Carter, also known as Jay-Z. Well, guess what? The address for the Boom Boom Room is on 13th Street, and it's 444. Did Twitter just unravel the mystery of 444?
No. Not at all. Just think about this.
What?
Jay-Z and Beyonce are both elite at their crafts.
Yes.
And they're both billionaires in their own right. Y'all don't think that he knew that somebody was going to be able to see this? Like, this is how you get the second boost for album sales.
You're giving him too much credit.
You guys know this is somebody that's a part of the camp.
You're giving them way too much credit, Jalen Rose. You're giving them way too much credit. And his story was like, oh, I woke up at 4:44 in the morning when I just was influenced by my muse and my spirit wanted me to write this apology song. I don't believe that either. I don't believe you. You need more people.
Here's what I want to say to everybody. Jay-Z and Beyonce are too smart to put their personal business so much on Front Street. Everybody thought when she did Lemonade is because they was going to wake up the next day and she was going to be divorcing her husband. And what did we say on this program? All he going to do is come back with a rebuttal. And what are they doing? Hiring 6 nannies and laughing their ways to the bank. As 2 of the top artists to ever do it.
$100 million house in Beverly Hills, 6 nannies. Oh, I love it. I love the Carter family so much.
Me too.
I love them so much. I'm so glad they had twins because now I can talk to them in the elevator about something. While Solange is trying to beat up Jay-Z, I'm like, hey, I got twins too. You guys can I share some nannies or something? You got a couple extra nannies for me? Jalen, our colleague and Michigan alum, Adam Raekwon the Schefter, is reporting that perhaps there's going to be some discussions to bring Colin Kaepernick to the Ravens. What's the first thing that comes to mind when you hear that?
Catch up, people. Think about this. Jim Harbaugh came out not too long ago, and he talked about the fact that Colin still has what it takes to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. Let me see. He actually coached him somewhere. Oh, he coached him in San Francisco. Right? And Jim and John happen to be related. So much so that they're brothers. Joe Flacco is probably going to miss the first week of camp. Baltimore, strong ownership, great leadership. Ozzie Newsome in the front office. They've dealt with controversial situations and individuals that have done certain things that have had to test the organization and the fan base. You bring in Colin Kaepernick to the DMV, if he can play football, he will not be a distraction. Do not be surprised if and when this happens.
Let's give the people what they want. Part of giving the people what they want is opening up our Twitter feed and going into our subreddit and listening to our voicemails to find out what the people want. If you call 985-80-JALEN, you can leave us a voicemail. We'll listen to the voicemails, and then we'll play them on the show, just like this.
Hey, what's up, Jalen Jacoby? This is Terrence from North Dakota. Could it be possible LeBron and Kyrie are just trolling everybody? Maybe they're doing this whole beef thing for a reason. Maybe to get some attention, maybe get some buzz, self-motivation for the season. I don't know, just some thoughts. What do you guys think?
First of all, big shout to Terrence in the underrated state of North Dakota. I've had so much fun in North Dakota before. And I also like at the end where he said, just some thoughts. I don't know, just some thoughts. Terrence had some thoughts about Kyrie and LeBron. Let's take his question seriously. Is there any chance that they're just trolling and this is all some sort of like game that they're playing with us, the media, manipulating us?
Not at all. You don't put that toothpaste back in the tube because ultimately when Kyrie comes out and says he wants to be traded, and then you involve a handful of teams that he hopes to be traded to, now it gets real. When the owner has to do interviews to talk about it, it is really real. When LeBron James has to send out tweets to talk about his level of disappointment or not with this behavior, it's real. So I do not think it's something they're doing just to troll us.
I do think it's real, but I also think this. If Kyrie stays on the Cavaliers, and let's imagine Kyrie hits a game-winning jump shot, it's not like LeBron James is going to ignore him. You know what I mean? Like, there can be tension, but like if he hits a game-winning jump shot, game 10 of the season in mid-October, not like LeBron James is not going to give him a handshake. Like, you will see, sure, it doesn't have to be 100 between them, but teammates are teammates, and success is success. Moving on, we're going to go into our subreddit. If you go to reddit.com/r/Jalen and Jacoby, there's a community of people discussing the show, critiquing the show, enjoying the show, and giving us questions like this one. This is from MCFC Tom. What's up, Jalen Jacoby? Longtime listener of the pod. My question is, as a die-hard, not die-easy, Memphis Grizzly fan, how do you think we will do next year? We lost Zebo, Vince, and potentially Tony Allen, but we signed Tyreke Evans and Ben McLemore and had a decent draft. Give the people that support small-market teams what they want. What do you have to say to Tom about the potential for the Grizzlies next year?
I love Coach David Fizdale. I think they overachieved last year. I'm proud to hear that they're going to retire Zach Randolph's number for his services, basically averaging a double-double while he was in town. Earned him the nickname Zebo. With that being said, look at the Western Conference landscape.
It's tough.
And so while Marc Gasol is going to be fully healthy, one of the top centers in the game, Mike Conley, do not be surprised if this season he becomes a 20-point scorer. Once a reluctant scorer, played a really good floor game, always been a terrific defender, a lefty who shoots a terrific right-handed floater, he's going to up his level of offense and aggression. But it just won't be enough. And in a salary cap-driven sport, you must get something from Chandler Parsons this year.
Don't be surprised if Chandler Parsons has an injury and misses a part of the season.
And so with that being said, if those are their three best players and they're still being productive, it will not be enough to get into the Western Conference playoffs.
Next, we go to our Twitter feed, and Nashawn wants to know is if a soft move or a boss move, veteran players making rookies spend huge amounts of money.
Boss move.
Yeah. Because
here's the thing. In the NFL, I remember a rookie of the Texans that got hit with a huge dinner and drinks check. And I'm trying to figure out why they didn't make Brock Osweiler pay for it. Because he had just got a big deal and he wasn't necessarily earning the level of respect from his teammates to the point where the fans booed him off the field and out of town. So with that being said, since players are making more money now than ever, you don't want it to be too outstanding. But you understand that there's a threshold that they can pay for a couple of meals. They can pay for some extracurricular activities. It won't necessarily hurt their pockets.
Absolutely not. Remember, if you call 985-80-JALEN, you can leave us a voicemail. We listen to the voicemails. We play them on the show like this.
What's going on, guys? This is Blake. And among the many reasons that I tuned into Jalen and Jacoby, it's for the statue news from the world's leading statue authority, Jalen Rose. But I heard you guys talking about trophies the other day. And I'd like to hear your thoughts on trophies. So rank your top 3 favorite sports trophies of all time and 3 that are completely whack. Thanks. Give the people what they want.
Well, really appreciate the call. But one thing this gentleman should know is that we don't have the time or the preparation to have 3 ready to go and 3 that are whack.
Or the professionalism.
Yeah, or the professionalism. But I'll tell you this. My favorite trophies are the trophies that you can drink out of. So I'm putting the Stanley Cup up there for sure. You know what I mean? I'm putting the claret jug up there. And this one, I don't actually like the physical trophy, but I like the idea that you can make the pose, and that's the Heisman. Like, I don't love the Heisman trophy, but just the idea that it's become this sort of iconic pose that you can make, I really dig that one. Whack trophies? Larry O'Brien trophy. Oh, my God. And the all-defensive team trophy, when I saw Draymond with that thing, I was like, what? Like, what? Look at Jalen right now. That is what it's like some guy in like a defensive stance. Looks like a sixth grader doing defensive slides, learning how to get in the stance. Those are whack trophies. What are some whack trophies that come to mind for you?
This is an easy one. The coldest trophy is the Heisman. No question about it. The wackest trophy.
Major League Baseball's trophy is whack, too, with all those flags. all those little flags. I feel like you can spin the flags around. It just seems kind of like it's easily breakable, you know?
The wackest trophy is anything for participation.
Yes, that's the wackest trophy. Another one. Listen, if you're going to call it the World Cup, it should be a cup. If you're going to call it the World Cup, I should be able to pour a Budweiser inside of it and then pour it all over my face. That is not a cup. That is a sculpture of the world. That is not the World Cup. On the show today, we're running back an old story time with Jalen Rose. We're looking at some of these old story time with Jalen Rose. It's like, what was going on with that dude's life back then? Like,
it was like the Jalen Rose that ate himself.
Yeah. Like, you now, when me and you go out to eat, you order fried food. You know what I mean? It's not like you've gone vegan and just eat vegetables. Like, what was that Jalen doing? What was that Jalen eating?
So here's the deal.
Tell me, Jalen.
I was enjoying retirement. See, this is what people forget. When you're a professional athlete, you're not retiring at 55 and then people expect you to get a pot belly, move to Miami, and try to live the life. I was 34.
Okay.
So that's exactly what I was doing. Eating when I wanted, not working out ever, hanging out as late as I wanted to, and enjoying the lifestyle. And then one day I looked up and saw myself on television. I was like, that's a 4X?
You were a 4X?
I'm like, wait a minute, look at that blazer.
I didn't know they made 4X. You have to go to that special store for big and tall men.
I'm like, wait a minute, that 4-button blazer about to pop. And that blazer is down to my knees.
So
I got to get this together.
I got to talk to you about a couple things. Number one, R.I.P. Fat Jalen. I love Fat Jalen. Fat Jalen had some habits that I absolutely loved. But this is definitely new and improved. Mature Jalen is a much better version. And secondly, you keep talking about how you're enjoying retirement. Yet you've never retired from the NBA. You've never filled out the paperwork. You're like, oh, I'm not one of those people that's going to retire at 45 or 55. Yes, you are. Like, when do you go? Yes, you are. You are one of those people. You did not retire at 34. You will retire at 55.
So I have some dietary tips of some things that I did that people may follow.
Okay, get your Shape magazine on.
No question about it. And here's the thing. Maybe I should write a book about this.
Nah,
you know,
I read your
you
last
have
book.
all of these people that are able to sell their tips on what people should do to be more healthy. So here's a couple of things I did that may help
Jalen,
you.
as someone who eats meals with you all the time, you should not write a book about dietary tips, okay?
Here's number one. You got to eliminate the vodka. Has so much sugar in it.
No, that's whiskey. Vodka's the hard liquor that you can't drink. First of all, your first tip is off.
Number two, you got to cut down on the fried food.
Says the man who ordered, last time we had a lunch together, ordered a fried chicken sandwich that came with 2 fried chicken breasts, and then backed that up with fried corn dogs for dessert. But continue with your dietary tips, okay?
But that's after I've lost the weight.
And that was literally last week.
Next dietary tip. It's a lifestyle thing.
This is a great segment.
You can't be up eating all types of night. At some point, you got to cut it down. I say worst case scenario, 8 p.m. Got to shut it down. Got to balance your meals during the day. Next dietary tip. Got to eliminate the pork.
Really?
Want to eat the pork? Got to let it go.
See, Jalen, it's almost like you forget who you're talking to sometimes, because I've seen you eat bacon in the last month.
I know, but this is after I lost the 40 pounds.
Do you know what animal bacon comes from? Do you know what animal bacon comes from?
I used to.
Okay.
So, a pig. So, the other thing, you got to limit the beef. Want to eat the beef?
You want to eat the beef, the steak, the hamburgers. Yeah, you're supposed to eat fish. That's what you're supposed to eat.
Yes. Another thing, cut out the bread.
Yeah. Here's the thing here's my thing is, it's about moderation in moderation. Remember that. That's a Jacoby saying. Moderation in moderation. I'm not going to not eat bread. Bread is delicious. I love bread and butter. Like a nice restaurant, little bread, some slathered butter all over that thing. That's fantastic. It's just about cutting it down. Not having 2 pieces of toast, have 1 piece of toast. That's all.
And the next one is the condiments. You want a lot of ketchup and mustard
I can't rock
and
with you on this
mayo.
one. A1 steak sauce all
butter.
day. Yeah, I want all that.
You got to cut that down. That's only if you want to lose. Those are the dietary tips of the day.
Thank you so much for watching Jalen and Jacoby at 2 p.m. on ESPN2. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast. Follow us on Twitter. Hit us in our subreddit. Leave us voicemails.